Hello all. In this video, we'll go over the IT Scrum Master introduction. Please do go over this video till the end. And if there's any questions, please do comment below. I will get back to you within 48 hours. So in waterfall, you'll have planning, and then you will have requirements, and then before that you'll have analysis, and then requirements, and then design, development, testing, deployment, right? And you can also say post prod or prod support. Sometimes for some time we'll give some prod support. So now in waterfall, this is for the project, right? If there is one project, there's only going to be one planning phase. But then, so for each and every project, so this comes from the level of project, and everything comes under a release, right? For each and every release, there is going to be requirements, design, development, testing, and prod support. These are all under a release. For each and every release, we'll have, right? So now, let's say, for example, you gather requirement and you get the required BRD, business requirement document approved. During development midway, so they come back to us and they say, so instead of this donut chart, we need a pie chart. Or if they change the parameters in here, right? So this has parameters like operation line, refinance, and all that. Now they tell us to change the parameters in the middle of development. In waterfall, we'll not accept, right? Because the business requirement document is approved and the design document is approved, the system requirements document is approved. So we'll not accept it.
Cannot make any changes in the requirement phase. We cannot go back and make the changes in the requirement phase, right?
Exactly. We cannot go back. It's like waterfall, right? We cannot go back and make changes. So what we'll do is we'll do something called change request. Yeah, so there will be a board called change approval board, change request process. We document it, and then we have to change the timeline, or we need to add resources or change the timeline, or somebody needs to work overtime. Something needs to change for this requirement to be delivered on time. So we'll try our best not to accommodate any change request, or it will move on to the next release. We'll just say, okay, that's good that you are bringing it up. We'll work on this in the next release, not this release, right? So we'll try our best to avoid that change request. Now in Agile, that's not the case. We should try our best to accommodate that change, but then one caveat is,
we face like in Agile, we can add the requirements or we can modify the requirements according to client requirements, right?
Provided small, it's not too big. Let's say, for example, instead of this red color, if they say blue, we can do it immediately. Or let's say, for example, instead of this donut chart, they say bar chart and the parameters are not changing. Small changes like this we can do. And even in terms of what's happening in the middle tier and back end, right? As long as it's minor, we will not do it in the same sprint. We'll do it in the next sprint, which we'll discuss. Right? So we'll be able to do it in the same release, but we'll be able to accommodate the change request in the same release, but we will not be able to accommodate the change request in the same sprint. And we'll go into this concept. But so even in Agile, right, there is something called sprint. If you bring up a change request in the middle of the sprint,
I am aware of this sprint,
yeah, they will not accept it. It's not healthy for a team to accept that change. They'll only do it in the next sprint. Maybe for the same, mostly for the same release, right? In the same release. So now this is
but
one
for
major.
The small changes, we can do it in this same sprint, or for the small changes also, we can take it to the next sprint.
Generally, in real time, small changes, they do it right there. If it is change the color and all, they'll do it. Developers, they don't care. They'll say, okay, I'll change it. But then if there is some amount of work involved in the middle tier or back end, right, they'll definitely not accept it. But then in real time, but now this is theory, right? Now, whatever we spoke, we had this discussion is theory. But in real time, sometimes the developers will accept even middle tier changes. Some business logic changes also they'll accept, provided it makes sense and it's not too big and it's not going to take up too much of their resource. Then they'll accept. But if it's going to be too big, even for the same release, they'll not accept. You need to give them some time to execute it. So one major caveat is that a change has to be medium to small to medium, somewhere around that. There are a million shades in between, but small to medium changes. will be taken into account and executed. Next is Agile Manifesto. So individuals and interactions over processes and tools, writing software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. So individuals and interactions over processes and tools, meaning want to have a good relationship with the customer or the end client, right? So there are two entities in IT. One is the IT, and other one, it could be an implementation partner. It could be an IT team that's in their payroll. It could be anybody. But then there are two entities. One is IT, could be contractors, could be full-time employees, could be implementation partner, a vendor company, and there's going to be customer, right? So the customer, that relationship between the IT and customer is very important. It takes precedence over processes and tools, meaning all these
Like, is customer and stakeholders are the same person or different?
customers are also stakeholders.
Are
Anybody
all
who has a vested interest on the project is a stakeholder. So right
stakeholder?
now I'm
Okay.
working for state of Illinois. Even I am a stakeholder. The customers are also stakeholder. I have an IT team with to whom I report
Mhm.
to. They are also stakeholders. The end users are also stakeholders. Stakeholder is a very broad term to use. Customers are end client, the business. So we call them customers or business or program. We use these
Mhm.
terminologies to refer to the business. So now we need to have a good relationship with the customer or the business
Cus-
or the program, right? In state, we call it program in state. In private companies, they might call it business or stake partners. Many terms are used, right? So we want to have a good relationship with them as opposed to that has precedence over the project charter, the BRD approval, and all these processes that are in place, right? So having a good relationship is more important than all these rules, regulations, processes, tools, and all that. Writing software over comprehensive documentation. Now in waterfall, right? So once you are done with your planning, okay, planning is on the level of project. So we'll ignore this for now. If you do your analysis phase, requirements phase, design, 35 to 40 percentage of the release duration is done. Now
Okay.
we did not even write one single line of code in these three phases, right? Only during
Mhm.
development we'll start coding, right? And
I
testing
will
will
start
fix the
recording.
code. Deployment will push the code to the real time environment. Prod.
Yeah.
Now 35 percentage of the duration, we didn't even write one single line of code. So but then in if you go to the internal status meeting, we'll say that okay, the project is in a good shape. The release is in a good shape. 35 percentage of the work is done. We are going to start coding. The team is progressing well. So so even documentation, eliciting requirements, they are a indicator of progress. But then in
Okay.
what in agile, writing software or comprehensive documentation, right? So writing software is more important than your documentation. In fact, to go one step further, we don't care about your documentation. Our only measure of progress is your code, your software, the software that you have written. So third,
Okay. So Roland, the code is the main part here. That is the
yes,
thing.
that is the measure of progress. If I ask you how your
Yes.
project is
Okay.
going, even
Mm-hmm.
but then I don't agree to this, because if I ask another BA or another project manager how the project is going, if we have collected the requirements properly, some BAs or project managers will say 99 percentage of the risk is resolved because requirements is approved. Now anybody can code this and give it to me, right?
Okay.
So
Right.
but then it varies. We cannot generally say, yeah, writing software is going to be the measure of progress, right? Even documentation is important. Without good documentation, there are projects which will fail because
Right.
the documentation is not good, because the customer keeps fighting with the BAs and the project managers. They'll have a misunderstanding that project will fail. That project will fail. I've seen this happen a lot. But then in reality, that's how it is. But Agile dictates that writing software is the primary measure of progress. A writing software takes precedence over documentation. We need to write software. We should not invest too much time in documentation. So next, third is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Same thing, right? We give less importance to artifacts like project charter, BRD, system requirement document, business requirement document, and all that. The customer collaboration is more important, right? Fourth one is responding to change over following a plan, meaning in waterfall, there is a plan, there is a BRD. We want to execute that BRD, we want to code for that BRD, and we follow a plan, right? But in Agile, it's about responding to change. So even when there is a change, we don't just say, hey, this is what the requirements are, this is what the requirement says. We don't do that. We kind of take it in same thing. It's getting repeated over and over again, right? So next is Agile principles. So customer comes first. Again, I mean this whole thing, right? I have just condensed it into 4 points. If you go and see the scaled agile framework that's in Google, this is 4 or 5 pages. I have condensed it into 4 lines, but even that 4 lines, if you actually read through it, more or less it says the same 2 3 things over and over again. We have to coding is the primary measure of progress. Coding takes precedence over documentation and other processes, and the relationship between the client and the IT is very important. That's it. Even this one, right? Customer comes first, welcome change, deliver working software frequently every 2 to 4 weeks. Working software is the primary measure of progress. One new thing that we learn, one new point that we are learning is deliver working software every 2 to 4 weeks. So what does that mean? So every 2 to 4 weeks, we have to push the code into maybe an integration environment or a system environment, right? So we have to deliver working software every 2 to 4 weeks so that the
Like
client
in
can
dev environment, you was talking about like we need to deliver after every 2 to 4 weeks. We push the code into dev environment, right, or
correct.
in a test environment.
Yes, generally that's what they do. But Agile doesn't say dev environment or system environment or UAT environment, but that varies based on the
Okay.
client. We have to
Okay.
deliver it into some environment, right? But then
Got it.
generally they push it to the dev environment. I said we only push it to the integration environment, right? They said no. He said no. Push it to the UAT and tell them to go through it. Give them 1 week time and tell them to approve it. And the reason why he's saying that is if you don't do this in 4 weeks, right? During the final UAT, 12 months later, end of the project, the clients will come and say, no, 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 this is not what I asked for. I never said we need a donut chart. I said we need bar chart. Last second, they'll come and say, this is not what I wanted. That's why the IT
Okay.
management was telling me, push the code to the UAT. Don't just put it in the dev environment, push it to the UAT. Let them play around with it, user acceptance testing environment. So every three
Yeah.
weeks, push it to the UAT and tell them to approve it. Get an email approval. So
Okay.
he was very particular about it, so that we don't get any surprises, right? So next one is the artifacts in Agile is the product backlog. So artifacts in Agile would be product backlog, release backlog, sprint backlog, and iteration backlog. So product backlog will contain the user stories for the entire project. So
Okay.
it will only contain some titles of the enhancement, right? Obviously, we won't have the requirements, but maybe the title of the enhancement item will be there in a user story format. So let's say, for example, we have to build a new module named customer profitability analysis page, right? So this is the new module. Then we'll just have one user story that will say mechanism to capture customer profitability analysis. That's it. It will not have any
Okay.
other information because it's the product backlog. We are yet to gather requirements, right? But it will be in user story format. I will go into user story format, or it will be in a epic. It will be as epic, but we'll go through what epic is. But it will be a one-liner. That's it, right? That is product backlog.
This is the final requirement what they want, like finally what they want. So that is the main summary they will have. That like for here it is we need customer profitability analysis module. So only this is the final thing we need. So that is the thing. It will be there like only in one line, right?
It will not. We didn't gather requirements, right? So now
No, it will not have any requirement. Only what the customer want that will be there, right?
it's called one liner, right? So
One line.
even before you go into the releases on all that, we'll have the set of meetings called a discovery phase, project planning phase. There will be two phases. One is discovery phase, another one is project planning phase. So during this project planning phase, we'll come up with something called objective key results, right? So we might have 10 OKRs. It's called objective key results.
Objective.
Key results. Now, only this is there. We don't know what's going to be in this page because we are just doing the planning. Now another one, right? This is kind of extra information, but we'll go through this. If you go to Amazon.com, if the one
Mm-hmm.
liner is right, if the one liner is we are building a car,
Mm-hmm.
this is the one liner. Okay, this is the objective.
Online. Mm-hmm.
Build a cart, right? To add items. That's it. Have you seen very old applications or very basic application? There will be one placeholder, nothing else will be there. There will be one placeholder. If you click on, if you type stuff in, you will be able to
Mm-hmm.
see all the items. If you click on it, it will go into a table. And then you can click on pay. It will get delivered to your house or you'll purchase it. That's it. Nothing else will be there, right? For that
Mm-hmm.
also, the objective will be build a cart to add items. That's it, nothing else. Then during requirements gathering, that basic cart they will build, that page they'll build, right? At the same time,
Mm-hmm.
even if Amazon wants to build a cart like this is the cart module, right?
Card model, yeah. Mm-hmm.
See how elaborate it is, how complex it is, how detailed and user friendly it is. Your recently viewed items, your items, buy it again.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on buy it again, what and all you bought before, you'll get to know that, right? So
Before,
everything
yeah.
is in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I bought, that's all coming up.
Yeah.
Now that basic application also objective is the same. This elaborate application also the objective is same. So what is dictating
Same.
the requirements for what is dictating that change? What is dictating that luxury? Nothing but timeline. If you give me 3 years, I'll build something like the Amazon one. If you give me 3 months
Mm-hmm.
time, I'll give you that basic placeholder. Click on it. If you type something in, it will pull it up from a table. It will go into another table, whatever you added. So if you click that pay button, you'll pay. That's it. Nothing else is there. If you give me
Mm-hmm.
3 months, I'll only do that. So this will the timeline, right? So when I say timeline, it talks about everything. It talks about the resource also. Because client wants to hold me on their payroll, they have to pay around $100 to have me in the payroll, to have me in the project. Every hour they have to pay
Mm-hmm.
me $100 or something. Right now I'm trying to get a digital marketer. They are, at least I can't find employee for 21,000 rupees or 25,000 rupees per month. I'm not able to find anyone. So so even that is involved, the cost is involved, right? So this timeline is, time is cost, time is money. So this will dictate everything. Time dictates resource will dictate cost. So it just goes on and on, right? So
Yeah.
this
So
timeline
basically,
will
sorry to
become the
interrupt. Like basically, who decides this timeline or this timeline, the framework? Who decides this, client or like
client, right? They can give me,
client?
yeah, if they pay me, if they pay IT for 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
we'll build this itself. If they give five
Within
years,
that,
we'll
yeah.
build something better than Amazon.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is what decide that's what will decide all these things, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
now let's come back to our topic, right? Product backlog will only have this, right? Because we haven't start gathering requirements on all that.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Yeah,
before you go into the project, even before you start your sprint, we will have a product backlog. We'll have a release backlog that's empty. We'll have a
got
sprint
it.
backlog that's empty. But the product backlog will have only the objective. These one liners will be there.
So the timeline and the cost, this will also be done in the product backlog phase
No,
only.
no, 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 no.
Okay,
This will be done during planning and during
planning. Okay.
discovery phase. And Scrum Master and BA, they don't have a role in that. But you have to
Okay.
understand what's going on. That's why I mentioned all these. So now,
Mm-hmm.
this one liner, this is what you have to understand, right? This one liner will be there
Mm-hmm.
as an epic in the product backlog, if that makes sense. That
Yeah,
epic is
got
broken down into features. Meaning, what is a feature? Feature is nothing but this is a feature. These two donut charts are feature. Is a feature. They are features.
So like
This
Epic will be broken down into release, right? And
no,
release will be
no, no,
further
no,
broken
no,
down
no,
into sprint.
no, no. Epic will be broken down into epic. What is epic? What are all these things? Epic, feature, bundle of work. Epic will be
Mm-hmm.
broken down into feature. Feature will be
Features,
broken down into user stories,
user stories,
broken down into tasks. So
task.
tasks will be broken down into subtasks. So this product backlog will only have the epic, and then they'll add features inside the epic. But right now we didn't even do any
Anything, yeah.
requirements or anything like that, right? So it'll only have epic,
Mhm.
and then they'll start adding as we start gathering requirements. We'll start adding the feature. We'll inside the feature. We'll start adding user stories. If you go to Jira, right? I'm sure you have used Jira.
Yeah, yeah, I based Jira, yeah.
Inside the epic, since you are a developer, you only know user story. You might have only dealt with features and user stories, but
Features,
then
user
there is
stories,
something.
and tasks, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that's about it, right? So then we'll start putting everything else. So product backlog, initially it will only have the epics, and then
Epic,
we'll start
epic.
adding user stories, features, user stories, tasks, and all. Release
Mm.
backlog, so product backlog, this will have all the requirements in that one liner format, all the requirements in that one liner format as epic for the entire project. So that is where now you might say, yeah, I mean, how will we do this in the planning phase? How will we know everything that they need in that planning phase itself? The answer to that
Mm.
question is we don't. All we know is this high level stuff. Build a cart to add it. And then how that cart is going to be will be determined based on the requirements that the business is going to give and the timeline on the resources, which will be taken care as the sprint goes on, right? So release backlog will have all the epics or user stories for that release. Sprint will have all the user stuff, all the sprint backlog, right? They'll only start filling it up later, right? So
Right.
this will have all the features for that sprint, all the user stories for that sprint. Once you work and finish a user story, you will put it into the increment backlog.
Increment backlog. So what is an increment backlog?
So now the user story says, the feature says code for this. So user story one, user story two, user story one, loan purpose revenue generation. We have documented this. User story two, segment
Mm-hmm.
revenue generation. We documented this. You coded for this. Finished. We pushed it into integration environment. Then what will we do with these two stories and that feature? We will put it into the increment backlog, drag and drop. So once you finish the work, once you finish the coding and testing work, and once that's done, then we put it into the increment backlog. If we have
Increment
that
backlog.
minimum viable product, then we'll put that user story into the increment backlog.